the silent border ambassador. Theron Kai stood at the observation deck of Humanity's Hope, watching another automated beacon drift past their ship. The beacon was ancient, covered in stellar dust and pockmarked from countless micrometeorite impacts, yet its message still broadcast clearly across every known frequency. Theron had heard it translated into standard galactic 100 times now, but each repetition felt like a fresh insult. Warning: restricted zone, species classification extreme risk, maintain minimum distance of 50 light-years. This boundary enforced by Galactic Preservation Act, Section 4, Subsection 12. Approach constitutes acceptance of all liability including, but not limited to total crew loss. Theron's reflection in the reinforced glass showed a man approaching 50, with graying temples and tired eyes. He had spent 15 years as Earth's chief diplomatic representative, and in all that time, he had never once shaken hands with an alien delegate. Every communication was conducted through remote systems. Every negotiation happened across vast distances. Humanity sent messages into the void and occasionally received terse responses, always coldly professional, never warm. Captain Wei Chen approached from behind, her footsteps quiet on the metal deck. She was younger than Theron, barely 30, but she had the same weariness in her posture. 6 months of traveling through empty space did that to people. Another one, she said, not really asking. Another one, Theron confirmed. How many does that make? 247 since we left Earth's sector. They've built a fence around us, Ambassador. A fence made of warnings. Theron turned away from the window. The observation deck was empty except for the two of them. Most of the crew had grown tired of watching the beacons drift by. At first there had been anger, then confusion. Now there was just resignation. We've followed every protocol, Theron said. Though he had said it 1,000 times before, we announced our intentions. We requested permission to enter neutral space. We offered cultural exchanges, trade agreements, scientific collaboration, and we got nothing back except automated warnings telling us to stay away. Wei Chen pulled up a holographic display from her wrist device. It showed their current position, deep in what was supposed to be neutral territory, but the map was marked with dozens of red zones, all of them surrounding human-explored space like a noose. We're not supposed to be here, Wei said. According to the Galactic Navigation Authority, this entire sector is closed to human vessels. They didn't tell us that, of course. I had to hack into a civilian traffic database to find out. They're hiding information from us now? They've always hidden information from us. I'm just getting better at finding it. Wei expanded the map. Look at this. Every major trade route curves around our space. There are stations positioned at the edge of the boundary, but nothing closer than 48 light-years. They've created a buffer zone and they're enforcing it without ever officially acknowledging it exists. Theron felt a familiar frustration building in his chest. Earth had achieved faster-than-light travel 30 years ago. They had reached out to the galaxy with hope and excitement, ready to join a community of intelligent species. Instead, they had found walls. Not physical walls, but walls of silence, of bureaucratic delays, of unexplained rejections. There has to be a reason, Theron said. Species don't just quarantine other species for no purpose. We're missing something. Maybe we're just not wanted, Wei suggested. Maybe they took one look at humanity and decided we didn't belong. Before Theron could respond, an alarm chimed softly. We checked her wrist display, and her expression changed. We've got a distress signal, she said. Small vessel, badly damaged, life support failing. It's transmitting in standard galactic and 17 other languages. Location? 2 million kilometers off our port side, drifting, no engine signature. Wei looked up. It's inside the restricted zone, Ambassador. If we respond, we'll be violating the quarantine protocols. Theron didn't hesitate. Set intercept course. Full speed. The Council will file a complaint. Let them. Maybe if we save someone's life, they'll finally talk to us. Humanity's Hope changed course, its powerful engines pushing the ship toward the distressed vessel. As they approached, Theron could see the damage through the observation window. The alien ship was small, barely larger than a shuttle, and it had been torn apart by something. Hull breaches vented atmosphere into space. One entire section was missing as if it had been bitten off. Scanning for life signs, Wei reported. I've got one, very faint. They're in bad shape. Prepare the medical bay. Get Dr. Okonkwo ready for emergency treatment. They brought the alien ship into their cargo bay using tractor beams, working quickly. The survivor was a Vishan, a species Theron recognized from the limited galactic databases Earth had access to. Vishans were traders, known for traveling dangerous routes that other species avoided. This one was elderly, his blue-gray skin mottled with age spots, his breathing labored. Dr. Okonkwo worked for 3 hours to stabilize him. Theron waited outside the medical bay, pacing. When the doctor finally emerged, she looked exhausted. "He'll live," she said. "Barely. Another hour and we would have been too late. He's asking to speak with whoever commands this ship." Theron entered the medical bay. The Vishan was connected to various monitoring devices, but his eyes were alert. When he saw Theron, something like fear flickered across his face. "Human," the Vishan whispered, his translator device converting his words into English. "You came. You actually came. We received your distress signal," Theron said gently. "We couldn't ignore someone in need." No, you couldn't." The Vishan's laugh turned into a cough. "That's what they're afraid of. You can't ignore. You can't give up. You can't let things die." Theron pulled a chair closer to the bed. "What's your name?" "Merchant Third Class Vorn of the Vishan Trade Coalition. Though I suspect I've lost my rank after this disaster." Vorn's eyes focused on Theron with surprising intensity. "Tell me, Ambassador, do you know why your people are quarantined?" "No one will tell us. Of course not. They're too afraid. They're afraid that if you knew, you would react. And human reactions are what scare them most." Vorn coughed again, and Dr. Okonkwo moved forward. But the Vishan waved her away. "I'm dying anyway. Might as well tell you the truth." "Someone should. What truth?" Theron leaned forward. 73 years ago, your people saved the galaxy, and we've been terrified of you ever since." Theron felt confusion wash over him. "We saved the galaxy? How? Earth didn't even have FTL 73 years ago." "No, but you had colony ships, slower than light vessels traveling to nearby star systems. One of those ships reached Kepler 442b. Vorn paused, gathering strength. "What you didn't know was that Kepler 442b was already inhabited. Not by intelligent life, but by something worse. A biological weapon left over from an ancient war. The Reaper Plague." Dr. Okonkwo inhaled sharply. "Even Earth's limited databases contained references to the Reaper Plague, though most of the information was redacted. Your colonists landed," Vorn continued. 200 humans in cryosleep, expecting an empty world. Instead, they found a nightmare. The Reaper Plague was still active after 10,000 years. It infected them within hours. "They died," Theron said quietly. "No." Vorn's eyes were wide. "That's the problem. They didn't die. The Reaper Plague was designed to kill everything. It had wiped out 17 species before the ancient civilizations finally contained it on Kepler 442b. It was supposed to be a tomb world, a place where death itself lived. But your colonists survived." Theron felt cold. "How?" "Human immune systems. Human adaptability. Human sheer stubborn refusal to die." Vorn's voice was filled with something between awe and horror. The plague attacked them and they fought back. Not with medicine or technology, but with biology. Their bodies learned, adapted, evolved in real time. Within 3 weeks, they had developed natural immunity. Within 6 weeks, they were producing antibodies that could neutralize the plague. Dr. Okonkwo was staring at Theron now. "That's impossible. Evolution doesn't work that fast." "It does for humans," Vorn said. "That's what we learned. That's what terrifies us." The Galactic Response Fleet arrived expecting to find corpses. Instead, they found healthy humans cultivating farms on a plague world. Your people had turned a biological weapon into nothing more than a bad fever. Theron's mind raced. "But that's good. We stopped the plague from spreading." "You don't understand," Vorn said, his voice weakening. "The Reaper Plague was contained because nothing could survive it. You broke the containment not by destroying the plague, but by surviving it. You proved that humans can adapt to anything, can survive anything, can overcome any threat through sheer biological persistence. And that makes us dangerous? It makes you unkillable," Vorn corrected. "Do you know what the galaxy does with threats? We negotiate with them, contain them, or destroy them. But you can't be negotiated with because you don't need anything from us. You can't be contained because you adapt to any environment. And you can't be destroyed because nothing kills you permanently. You just survive and come back stronger." Theron stood up, his mind spinning. "So they quarantined us because we're too adaptable. Because you're persistent, Vorn said. Because when humans encounter a problem, they don't retreat. They don't accept defeat. They just keep pushing until either the problem breaks or they do. And humans never break. That's what the report said. The colonists on Kepler 442b should have died. They should have given up. Instead, they built a city on a plague world and sent back messages asking when the next colony ship would arrive. The Vishan closed his eyes, exhausted. I've traveled the galaxy for 90 years. I've seen species rise and fall. I've watched civilizations crumble. But I've never seen anything like humanity. You're not evil. You're not warlike. You're just unstoppable. And the galaxy has no protocol for dealing with something that can't be stopped. Theron looked at Dr. Okonkwo, seeing his own shock reflected in her face. They had spent decades wondering why they were rejected. Now they knew. They were too good at surviving. Rest, Theron told Vorn. We'll get you to safety. As he left the medical bay, Captain Wei was waiting. I monitored the conversation, she said. Orders, Ambassador? Theron looked out at the stars beyond their ship. Somewhere out there was a galaxy full of species that feared humanity, not because of what they had done, but because of what they could do. Because humans never gave up, never stopped trying, never accepted death. Set course for the nearest inhabited system, Theron said. It's time the galaxy learned something important about humanity. What's that? We don't just survive impossible situations. We help others survive them too, whether they want our help or not. The price of being unkillable. 3 weeks after rescuing Merchant Vorn, Theron found himself in a place he had never expected to reach. The shadow market was a myth among human traders, a legendary station that supposedly existed in the gaps between legal and illegal space. It was where information brokers sold secrets that governments wanted buried, where criminals met with corporate executives, and where truth had a price tag. Getting here had required every favor Theron could call in, plus a substantial bribe to a Dravian smuggler who asked no questions. Now he sat in a dimly lit booth waiting for someone known only as the archivist. Captain Wei sat beside him, her hand resting near her concealed weapon. The station's atmosphere was thick with smoke and the smell of a dozen different alien biochemistries. Music played from somewhere, a discordant melody that hurt human ears. This is illegal, Wei said quietly. If Earth Command finds out we're here, they'll recall us. Earth Command sent us to find answers, Theron replied. They just didn't specify how we should find them. A figure approached their booth, moving with an unusual gait. The archivist was a Keltheran, a species Theron had only seen in databases. Keltherans were rare, their homeworld destroyed in some ancient catastrophe. This one wore multiple data storage devices on metallic appendages that extended from a central body core. Ambassador Theron Kai of Earth, the archivist said, its voice synthesized through a translation device. You seek information about humanity's classification status. This is expensive knowledge. I can pay, Theron said, sliding a credit chip across the table. The archivist's optical sensors examined the chip. This will suffice for basic historical records. But what you really want, the classified files from the Galactic Biological Survey Committee that cost considerably more. How much more? Information for information. I want full genetic records from the Kepler 442b survivors. The ones who survived the Reaper Plague. Those records are worth more than any currency. Theron hesitated. Earth's government kept those records sealed, not because they were dangerous, but because they represented humanity's greatest vulnerability. If other species understood exactly how human biology worked, they could potentially weaponize that knowledge. But without answers, humanity would remain trapped behind an invisible wall forever. I can get you those records, Theron said, but I need something first. I need to know what the galaxy really thinks we are. The archivist's appendages moved in what might have been satisfaction. It pulled out a small data drive and connected it to a holographic projector. Images appeared in the air above their table. This is document 17-alpha, the archivist explained. Filed by the Galactic Biological Survey Committee 68 years ago, shortly after the Kepler 442b incident. It has never been publicly released. The hologram showed a detailed analysis of human biology. Theron saw genetic sequences, cellular structures, and complex graphs he didn't fully understand, but the text accompanying the images was clear enough. Species classification, Homo sapiens, commonly designated humanity. Threat level, existential. Recommendation: permanent quarantine with minimal contact protocol. Existential threat? We read aloud. Were classified the same as rogue artificial intelligence and stellar-scale weapons? Read further. The archivist suggested. Theron scrolled through the document. What he found made his blood run cold. Biological analysis. Summary: human immune systems demonstrate unprecedented adaptive capabilities. When exposed to the Reaper plague, a pathogen specifically engineered to overwhelm all known biological defense mechanisms, humans developed natural immunity within 21 standard days. This adaptation occurred without technological intervention and has been genetically inherited by subsequent generations. They're afraid of our immune systems? Hui said, disbelief in her voice. Not just your immune systems, the archivist corrected. Your entire biological architecture. Look at section 12. Theron found the section. It detailed something called the meditation crisis, an event he had never heard of. What is this? He asked. 26 years ago, the archivist explained, a galactic research station suffered a catastrophic failure. The station was studying exotic matter when containment breached. Radiation levels spiked to lethal concentrations. The station sent out distress calls to every ship within range. The hologram changed, showing a space station breaking apart in slow motion. 43 ships responded. The archivist continued. Representatives from 40 different species. Everyone worked together to evacuate the station's personnel. It was considered a triumph of galactic cooperation, except for one problem. What problem? Theron asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. Every rescue worker died within 3 months. Every single one. The radiation exposure was more severe than initial scans indicated. Species from across the galaxy, some with the most advanced medical technology imaginable, couldn't survive. They developed cancers, organ failures, cellular breakdown. It was a tragedy that united the galaxy in mourning. The hologram showed funeral ceremonies from dozens of different cultures, but 3 humans also responded to that distress call. The archivist said quietly, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, engineer Tom Reeves, and pilot Chen Zhao. They received the same radiation exposure as everyone else. The galaxy prepared to mourn them as well. They survived, Wei whispered. They survived, the archivist confirmed. All 3 of them. They got sick, certainly. They spent weeks in medical facilities. But their bodies repaired the damage. Cellular regeneration occurred at rates that shouldn't be possible. Within 6 months, they were completely healthy. Medical scans showed no permanent damage. It was as if the radiation exposure had never happened. Theron stared at the hologram, which now showed images of the 3 humans smiling at a recovery ceremony. They looked normal, healthy, alive. The galaxy mourned 40 heroes, the archivist said, but they feared 3 survivors. Because if humans can survive radiation that kills every other known species, what can't they survive? What environment, what weapon, what catastrophe could actually eliminate humanity? None, Wei said softly. The answer is none. Precisely. The archivist deactivated the hologram. Your species doesn't just survive. You thrive in conditions that would extinct anyone else. You're not stronger than other species or faster or smarter, but you're more persistent than anything the galaxy has ever encountered. You don't know when to die. Theron felt a strange mixture of pride and horror. Humanity's greatest strength was also their most terrifying quality to everyone else. There's more, the archivist said, producing another data drive. This is from last week. Highly classified. It cost me considerable resources to obtain. A new hologram appeared showing what looked like military briefings. The Virillian swarm has returned. The archivist said, Do you know what that is? Theron shook his head. The Virillian are a hive species that exists in the dark space between galaxies. Every 8,000 years they migrate through our galaxy, consuming resources and destroying anything in their path. The last time they came through, they wiped out 200 civilizations before the combined galactic fleet drove them back. That was 7,000 years ago. The hologram showed insectoid creatures of enormous size. Their ships organic and terrifying. They're coming again. The archivist continued. Advanced scouts have been detected. The Galactic Council is preparing, but their simulations are not encouraging. The Virillian have evolved. They're stronger now, more adaptable. The Council estimates a 30% chance of successfully repelling the invasion. What does this have to do with humanity? Theron asked, though he was beginning to understand. 3 days ago, the Galactic Council held an emergency closed session. The vote was unanimous. They're going to ask humanity for help. Wei laughed, but there was no humor in it. They've quarantined us for decades. They've refused every attempt at contact. And now they want our help. They don't want your help, the archivist corrected. They need your help. Because the Virillion are persistence hunters too. They don't stop. They don't retreat. They just keep coming until everything is consumed. The galaxy needs someone equally persistent to fight them. Theron stood up, his mind racing. When are they sending the request? They already did. A formal diplomatic message was transmitted to Earth 3 hours ago. By now, your government is reviewing it. And what do they want from us exactly? Everything, the archivist said simply. Military assistance, tactical expertise, access to human biology to develop better survival training. They want to learn how you survive the unsurvivable. They want to understand persistence. They want to be more like you. After decades of treating us like a disease, desperation makes philosophers of everyone, Ambassador. The archivist began gathering its equipment. Your species has a choice now. You can help the galaxy that rejected you, or you can stay behind your quarantine and watch civilizations fall. Some choice, Wei muttered. After the archivist left, Theron and Wei sat in silence. The weight of what they had learned pressed down on both of them. What do we do? Wei finally asked. Theron thought about the 3 humans who had survived radiation that killed 40 other people. He thought about the colonists who had turned a plague world into farmland. He thought about humanity's history of facing impossible odds and somehow, inexplicably, surviving. We do what humans always do, Theron said. We help, not because we expect gratitude or respect. Not because they deserve it, but because people need help and we're the only ones who can provide it. They'll still fear us. Yes, but maybe they'll fear us a little less if we save them, or maybe they'll fear us more. Either way, it doesn't change what's right. Theron accessed his communication device and sent a message back to humanity's hope. Captain Wei, set course for Earth. We need to brief the government before they make any decisions. As they left the shadow market, Theron looked back at the station one last time. Somewhere out there in the dark space between galaxies, an ancient enemy was coming. And humanity, the species too persistent to die, was going to stand between that enemy and extinction. Not because the galaxy welcomed them. Not because they were finally accepted. But because when humans saw someone in trouble, they helped. It was what made them dangerous. It was what made them human. And perhaps, Theron thought, it was what would finally make them understood. 2 months later, Ambassador Theron Kai stood before the Galactic Council for the first time. Behind him stood 3 people, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, Engineer Tom Reeves, and Pilot Chen Zhao, the survivors of the meditation crisis. Living proof of humanity's impossible resilience, Chancellor Morax addressed the assembly, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. We face an existential threat. The Virillion return. We need allies who understand persistence, who know how to survive against impossible odds. We need humanity. Theron stepped forward. For decades, you've kept us isolated. You've feared what we are. You've built walls around us. Now you ask for our help. Why should we give it? The chamber fell silent. Because, Theron continued, his voice strong, that's what humans do. We help even when helping is hard, even when we're not wanted, even when survival seems impossible. We help because it's right, not because we expect anything in return. He looked around the chamber at thousands of alien faces, all watching him with varying degrees of fear and hope. You're afraid of us because we don't give up, because we survive things that should kill us, because we're persistent. But that same persistence means we're loyal. It means when we commit to something, we see it through. When we make friends, we protect them. When we see injustice, we fight it. When we encounter a threat, we face it. Dr. Mitchell stepped forward. You studied us. You analyzed our biology. You documented our survival. But you never asked us why we survive. It's not because we're physically superior. It's because we choose to. Because we believe tomorrow can be better than today. Because we refuse to let death have the final word. The Virillion are coming, Theron said. And yes, humanity will fight them. Not because you've earned our loyalty, but because civilizations deserve to survive. Because extinction is permanent. Because somewhere in those civilizations are children who deserve a future. He paused. But after this is over, things change. No more quarantine. No more isolation. We join the galactic community as equals or we part ways as strangers. You choose. Chancellor Morak stood. For a long moment he said nothing. Then slowly, deliberately, he extended his appendage in the human gesture of handshake. Equals, he said. Theron took his hand. The galaxy had learned fear. Now it would learn respect. And humanity, the species too persistent to die, would finally find their place among the stars, not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as partners who never gave up on anyone, even those who had given up on them, because that was what made them dangerous. That was what made them human. And that ultimately was what made them hope.